Hi, it's Max here from Music Makers. Now today we're just going to talk about the basics of limiting and why or if at all you should limit at all. So if you're playing music and you're making music just to listen to yourself personally and you're probably not going to share it to anyone, then the chances are you don't need to limit your music. If you're making music that you probably want to eventually get into clubs, maybe get onto vinyl, get onto MP3, export it onto SoundCloud, YouTube, all those sort of platforms, then you need to listen to this. Basically, when you export any sort of track and then you make an MP3, convert it to an MP3, it's going to boost the volume up. So pretty much you're going to have to reduce that volume using the limiter before you export it. And it's really simple. So all we're going to do, we'll get a basic limiter here. Now the features should be the same on pretty much any limiter. I've got a couple of limiters. If you do struggle, I'll put two up on the screen. Now, when we're using a limiter, we're probably, if we're going to export to an MP3, we probably want it at -188. Now that means -188 below 0. If you see the scale there, most music is played around 0. I know it's a strange concept to think. You would have thought music is played boosted above some sort of volume, but it's actually below 0. So strange as it is, the concept will show you how it works. So we're going to take it down to -188. The reason why the MP3 is going to boost it up again, or if you upload it to SoundCloud, the volume is going to be boosted up again. So we want a cap on this. This is what the ceiling is. Basically it stops. Think of it this way: if you've got a giant who's trying to grow through the roof, the ceiling comes down, he can't grow anymore. So this is what it is basically. It's putting a cap and stopping the volume getting above that certain point, limiting. Okay, so we're going to take it for this instance to 188. You know, there's a lot of good producers who are getting really big tunes, who have got their tunes as far down as -2 decibels. So we'll do it at 188 for the instance, and basically now when I export to MP3 it's going to come up to 0, and you can see here it's -88, and it's not going to be distorted, it's not going to be ruined because of the MP3 export, and that's what we're aiming for. So now what I will say is there was a famous opera musician, I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but he said the MP3 exports were actually ruining his works of art, you know, and they do. It's because of this simple reason, and over the years people have learned to adapt their music to be able to, well, to be MP3, you know, friendly. So it's pretty much that simple, guys. So one of the main things I will say before this though is make sure when you start a project, whatever DAW you're on, to turn all your tracks down to -10. Now this is a pro mastering technique. I master music myself, and you know, it's something I say over and over to people, and when they do it they actually see the improvement. They say, my tune's not distorting anymore, it sounds a lot more professional, it sounds more like what I would hear, you know, on the radio. And this is what we're aiming at really. So we'll turn everything down to -10 because all the effects that you use on all your tracks are going to boost all that volume up. So you don't want everything at 0 to start and then it's going to go above 0. And we all know if anything goes above 0, which is here as well, which is pretty much labeled everywhere on your master channels, 0, you go above that and it's going to distort horribly. So this is all the reason we do this, because we don't want anything reaching above 0. So okay guys, I've explained the basics of limiting and how to limit, why to limit, and I'll show you a little bit more in depth now about how to use a limiter. So we've got look ahead here, which is basically going to look ahead, and it's going to give you a clearer signal when the sound, you know, crosses a certain path. So the less you do, you know, is probably going to act a lot quicker, but it's not going to be as precise. So If you turn it up to 6, it's going to be more precise. You know, you're probably not going to get the louder sort of mix you want, but you've got to even it up. So, you know, see whereabouts you think you're comfortable with. And, you know, some people use these effects, having it lower deliberately and higher deliberately, to have a pumping effect on the music. So, you know, think about these things. And a lot of producers today, which I try and explain in a lot of my videos, they turn the volumes down. It's not about boosting the whole volume of every track. You can regain a lot of volume by just turning up the limiter gain here, and obviously keeping the ceiling down because you don't want to boost above 0. So we've explained this, and we'll show you basically now on the Pro L. So we've basically got the gain again, which is this gain here, which is going to be here. If we go in advanced, we've got the look ahead here, which is the look ahead here. We've got attack, which is this, well, we all know what attack is. It's the start of a sound, pretty much the transient for more advanced users. And, you know, if you've got a drum hit, that very first slap, that very first little tick of my hand hitting my other hand, that is your attack. You know, and depending on how soft or how hard you want it, is going to be how quick the attack is, how fast it is. So we've explained the basics of most of the stuff on the limiter here, you know, and we've got transparent, which for those of you who don't know, it is as it sounds. It's totally transparent on your mix. You won't hear there's a limiter, which I use a limiter for. Some people use a limiter intentionally to give that limited effect. So there's all sorts of different ways you can use a limiter, and I've taught you the basics today in that little tutorial, and I hope you guys liked it. I hope you learned from this. I hope you export your MP3s, and we've got plenty of samples on our website, one of the biggest growing websites at the minute. Come and get your samples, free VSTs. We've got tutorials, full courses, stuff to get you trained musically and around the studio. So thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. Thanks a lot for listening, and I'll catch you guys later.